That was really good.
Yay. What a great new way to start a board meeting. I would like to call the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Des Moines Public Schools to order for September 4th, 2018. Please take the roll.
Natasha Newcomb.
Here.
Ms. Delagardelle Shelley.
Here.
Ms. Langford.
Here.
Ms. Ellsburn.
Here.
Ms. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Barron.
Here.
The first item is approval of the agenda. Are there any special requests? Okay. We'll pull item D2 from consent and address that at the end of our other items later in the agenda. Anything else? Okay, then may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended?
A motion.
A motion by Natasha Newcomb, a second by Ms. Anderson. Please vote. Motion carries 6-0. Our next item of business is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the August 14, 2018 minutes?
I'll move. I'll second.
Okay, any discussion or corrections? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0 with one abstaining. Next, we'll have district recognitions, and the superintendent will take over now.
Good evening, Board. It is a pleasure to begin our first board meeting of a new school year with two recognitions that highlight our student success in activities and academics. First, one of the greatest baseball books ever written is The Boys of Summer, a memoir about growing up near the home of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Here in Des Moines, it may be time for someone to write The Young Women of Summer. For one memorable week this past July, all of us in Des Moines were Huskies as we cheered Hoover on their way to winning the state high school softball tournament. This was Hoover's second state softball title, the first coming in 1982. This year's trip to state was also a bridge between those 36 years, and as many players from the 82 team came back to cheer on their alma mater and make bonds with some of the team members with us tonight. Winning gold in softball was a fitting end to what was the golden anniversary of Hoover High School. I'm pleased to introduce Hoover's AD, Missy Floyd, to come up to introduce the players and coaches who are with us tonight and share a little bit more about the season. Missy? Come on up, all y'all.
Where are we seeing?
Behind me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you forget the turn? Okay. He takes the board.
Dr. Ahart and the school board, thank you so very much for having us here tonight. I'm so honored to introduce this Hoover team to all of you. As you've probably already guessed, they are great athletes, but I also want you to know how they contribute to the Hoover community. They are principled in their academics. This team has a collective GPA of 3.71 while taking over 21 college and AP courses just this past school year. And 4 of our girls were 8th graders, so they obviously couldn't take AP, so that's out of 10 girls. If you saw their interviews while participating in the state tournament journey, you saw how articulate and humble they truly are. They constantly give each other credit for their successes and show everyone what it really means to be a good teammate and how much they care about each other. These girls have put a lot of hard work into becoming better. They were dedicated in the weight room. They play weekends year-round and are committed to being extraordinary teammates. These students are always open-minded about their decisions our coaches have made and to make this season a success. They stepped up when they taught them to communicate for themselves, and they have truly made their families and the Hoover community very proud. I, along with the girls, coaches, and their families, would like to thank the Hoover community and the entire DMPS community for the support that we received during this exciting time. Your presence, signs, many texts, and phone calls were greatly appreciated. It is nice for our entire student body to know just how much Des Moines cares. Without further ado, here's your Hoover High School State Championship softball team. Missy Feuerbach, who's also Coach of the Year. Katie Feuerbach. Katie Feuerbach and Bailey Gilbertson with assistant coaches. Hannah Blackford is not here as she's playing softball in college, our only senior. Abby Nolte, Hannah Pertinga, Katie Burns is at practice, Jade Sharp, Bates is at work, Carly Benson is at work, Taylor Floyd, Jordan Redeker, Elise Hiskey has a volleyball game right now, Alexis Polson, Peyton Biddle, not sure where Angela is, Angela Kubalek, and Meadow Lecoq.
If you all, ladies, could just stay here for a minute. Board, if I could have you step down so we can get a photo with the board and our state champion. That is
What about against that wall?
I knew everybody else was, like, check.
Congratulations, ladies. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much.
Next, each summer, the Young Engineers and Scientists program provides students with the opportunity to spend 6 weeks at Iowa State University conducting research. The program, supported by the National Science Foundation, gives high school students the chance to work on projects relating to biorenewables at the place regarded as one of the nation's leading research universities in this field. This past summer, 6 DMPS students from Lincoln, North, and Roosevelt took part in this program. Maureen Griffin, our school improvement leader at Brody Middle School, helps to coordinate this opportunity for our students, and I'd like to invite her to please join me to introduce the students who could join us this evening and share a little bit more about their work this summer. Maureen?
A little wet. I'm sorry, I did get a little wet. It's nice to be here. Thanks for inviting us back. We've got 3 of the 6 kids to show what they did this summer to talk with you for a brief minute. And tell you how their research and work this summer has been articulated into the classroom already this year. And Mitch, you want to join me? Ben, come on up. And Akobari. The thing to know is that there's over 76 applications to this program, and only 15 students were selected to attend. 6 of those were Des Moines High School students. First of all, we've got Mitch here from Roosevelt High School, right behind me, and Dr. Ardash Krishnamurthy, I probably nailed that, says about Mitch. At such a young age, Mitch possesses a sharp and inquisitive mind. He showed a great amount of interest in conducting research in the field of artificial intelligence and mechanical design. He has a flair for coding, and with his help, we were able to achieve a lot of objectives in our research. There's always an intelligent question running through his mind, which he never fails to ask. Mitch.
All right, thank you for allowing me to talk to you guys today. So the research that I did over the summer was concerning multi-resolution convolutional neural networks for image recognition. And that's quite a technical term just to say this is an application of a neural network in order to create lower memory cost neural networks. So typically current state-of-the-art convolutional neural networks are their algorithms used to detect what is actually in an image. They contain millions of different parameters, and the required time it takes and memory in a computer to actually run them is very high. And the objective of the research was hoping that with similar performance to a high resolution only image recognition program, have memory usage similar to a low resolution only. And so this concept was already implemented in 3D computer aided design models by the lab that I worked with this summer. They were able to reduce the memory usage by a factor of 5. And so the objectives that I had during the summer research term was to pre-process the image data that I would be using and then attempt to implement the 2-dimensional case of the multi-resolution convolutional neural network. So first with image pre-processing, we first had to standardize the images into a 256 squared resolution. It's there at the bottom left. Then there was creating a separate downscaled 64 resolution and processing the 64 by 64 picture through an image recognition program, edge recognition program. And this was important because edges are one of the most important key features in actually identifying what is in an image. And the hope with this technique, as shown in the structure format, is to take the section, take a pixel that is labeled as an edge in the low resolution, and then run the corresponding 4x4 group of pixels in the high resolution image through its own neural network, which would extract the information from the high resolution, overlay it into the low resolution image, do that for all edge pixels, and then run that finally through its own image recognition neural network. So primarily, the largest roadblock into implementation was data representation. One of the hardest parts about all of this process in general is finding a good way to represent data into a format that the computer is able to use. And one of the things that stopped me from being able to implement this fully was the fact that there are different amounts of edge pixels for each image, and this halted my progress and towards a implementation. But kind of what I would like to talk about more specifically, rather than my research in terms of what I learned, it's more how I have kind of grown and learned what I would like to do. This was a really incredible experience for me personally because there's only so much you can do in the classroom, but having the opportunity to work with professors, work with graduate students, and understand, working with them with research that they do all year round is really enlightening. This is something that I would love to continue to research in the future. In my post-secondary education, it's something that I would really like to go forward with. But another really important thing to me was just the fact that having this opportunity for students in the Des Moines Public Schools and in the state of Iowa, I think is really important to get kids interested in learning in science, technology, engineering, and math research or research jobs or jobs in the industry.
Yes, if you ever wonder if we're preparing kids for that next job that we don't understand, I think we're doing that. Ben Wonderland is also from Roosevelt High School, and Ben worked with Dr. Susan Vanderplas and her research group. They say about Ben, I've really enjoyed having Ben as an intern this summer. He's willing to approach problems from multiple angles to find the most reliable solution to the problem. He is very good at working in a team setting, but will also follow interesting leads individually and report back on his findings. He is particularly good at working through obstacles to a program to find a reliable solution. I know that with these skills, he will make an excellent applied mathematician. Ben.
Hello, thanks for allowing me to speak for you guys tonight. So I had the opportunity to work over the summer in the Center for Statistics and Applications in Forensic Evidence, along with another high school in Ames, from Ames High School. The title of our project was Classification and Casting, Establishing Modern Shoe Print Databases. So we worked on two main projects, both of which were with data collection of shoe print evidence. Currently, shoe print evidence in the forensic field is very common. It's the second most common type of evidence behind DNA evidence, but there's a noticeable lacking of quantitative analysis for those shoe print pieces of evidence, other than just an expert weighing in on their personal opinion. So the goal of both of the two main projects was to establish a data collection procedure for two long-term projects that would allow criminal investigations to have a more quantitative, more reliable number behind a shoe print piece of evidence. The first project dealt with neural networks, so the same type of algorithm that Mitch was working on, but I was on the more prerequisite setup side of it. I like to think of it like flashcards, so if you're showing a student some flashcards, it might only take a few dozen for a student to learn, but when you're teaching a computer to do something, it could take thousands. So me and the other student, we were working with preparing those flashcards by picking out elements of shoe prints, so something like a chevron, a triangle, a star that you would find on a shoe print, and labeling those so that when we passed it through the computer would have something to learn off of. The primary goal of this was to be able, so that a criminal investigator could identify a shoe. When they see a shoe print on the scene, they can see there's a triangle, a star, and then put that into the database created by the neural network and have a list of candidates. And then eventually this could end up extremely long-term in a shoe print scanner under like a tile of a sidewalk that would allow investigations to see how common a shoe is during a certain time of day or a certain season within an area. The second project was with, it was a more physical side of the project, and it was, currently at Iowa State, there's a long-term study in which undergraduates are paid to wear shoes throughout the school year, and then they check back in periodically so that the researchers at CSAFE can analyze wear on certain shoe brands. So what we were doing was designing more data collection procedures for the next phase of that study this current year. And our main concern was the 3D casting in the more realistic conditions. So we worked with dental stone, which is the same stuff used in orthodontics and dentistry to cast teeth models. And we worked with that to use, to make shoe print models as well. So that was more ironing out. That wasn't strictly scientific, but it was trial and error, seeing what works, seeing what was replicable and reliable during that study. The hopes is that both of these projects will end up letting analysts have more reliable, more quantitative evidence in those criminal investigations. And I think my summer created that first step towards that. All in all, I think this summer, like Mitch said, really helped fill the gaps of where classroom experience doesn't really push the envelope as far as getting a taste of industry or getting a taste of academia. And we've presented in some math classes, some computer science classes, and there seems to be a general desire and a thirst for this kind of extra experience. So I hope to see more of these programs persist. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. And the last speaker we have tonight is Akpobari Godpower from North High School. And Akpobari had the research task of producing scripts to graph parameters used to characterize Cherenkov radiation from extended air showers. Akpobari took on the challenge with patience and perseverance. He asked good questions and was always honest about what he did and did not understand. His work will help us tackle one of the key issues in the highest priority project in our lab, and that was from Dr. Amanda Weinstein and her research group. You're up.
So thank you for allowing me to speak here today. And so what my project was about was hunting stellar ghosts as a name, and that's referring to supernovas, because after a star dies, when it has a really dense mass, the core will collapse and just explode. And so in the middle of all of that, there's a neutron star, which is the remnants of the supernova, and that neutron star will start spinning, and it will blast gamma rays towards every other direction. And so that top left graph you see over there, so when during this whole process, that explosion is shooting thousands and thousands of different particles into space. And so the technology that they use picks up all of that. And what you see as the black is the cosmic rays, and what you see as the red are the gamma rays. And so the gamma rays are what we're trying to focus on and really study and understand. But the problem is, as you can see on that top left one, it's really spread out, and it's really difficult to pinpoint on a specific area you want to evaluate. And so I created a script that would separate the difference between a gamma ray and a cosmic ray for the telescope or the technology to understand. And with that, makes it easier for different physicists or anyone else who wants to learn about this to understand or go into deeper, profound knowledge about what they want to learn about. So the importance of this is that gamma rays are something that just comes and blasts into our atmosphere almost every day. And so for example, a couple decades ago, physicists had found like different beams that are entering into our atmosphere. And so with that, she was able to create technology that would help us understand that. But the problem was that we didn't know how to separate the differences between gamma and cosmic rays. And so with my script, I was able to separate the two of them. And so that bottom left, yeah, that one was the script I created, the BDT score. And so what that would do was it would try to separate or segregate between the two different types of gamma rays. Whereas the left one next to it, it's really kind of difficult to pinpoint which one on which cosmic rays or gamma rays you want to pinpoint at the at lower energy levels. And so by creating a script, it was easier to differentiate between the two. And this research has really helped me because usually I'm like a perfectionist when I do things. And so something about research is that it doesn't always go well. As like there are some points where I was like, man, I really got really frustrated with what I was doing. But something that Maureen taught me was that mistakes can help you propel you to better things, and not learning from your mistakes is really a mistake. And so that really taught me about how my mistakes can help me with my studies, because before I used to be like, oh, I didn't get this quiz right, I didn't do this specific thing, and I got frustrated. But now I'm more a person who I learn from what I did, how I can improve. And so this research is really crucial for other students who want to do something like this, because but your average biology class, there's not something you're gonna fail at, because it's made to be it's made to succeed. Whereas in the academia world, it's a coin toss. And so by learning how some things can fail and some things can succeed, it really propels you to understand more about life, because there's ups and downs. Yeah.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Ms. Langberg, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to say, gentlemen, 80% was over here. But the 20%, you all really did a great job of explaining to us something that was super complex in a way that, we could at least get the gist of what you were doing. And I just, whoever has anything to say about Des Moines Public Schools and the opportunities that we provide our kids, they just don't know. They just don't know the full picture of what we're doing here. So I could say that I'm so proud at the presentations that you all just gave, and I learned something new, and I am so optimistic that you guys are leading our future. Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, now before continuing with our regular meeting, I want to remind the audience that we allow any person the opportunity to speak to the board for 5 minutes following the presentation of an agenda item. If anyone wishes to speak to an agenda item, please go to the information table to sign up. Remarks must be germane to the agenda, and we ask that you avoid reference to personalities and character attacks, as those types of comments serve no productive purpose. As a reminder to the board in public, the board will not engage in discussion or deliberation with a speaker regarding comments made to agenda items. Discussion and deliberation will remain among the board members at the board table, with speakers' comments informing said discussion, deliberation, and determination as deemed necessary. We appreciate your input. Natasha Newcomb, would you please make the motion for consent?
I move that the board approve the consent items in accordance with the recommended action for each item on the consent agenda, including bills previously authorized, certified, and approved for payment by the board secretary in the amount of $7,900,293.33.
Okay, may I have a second?
I second.
We have a motion by Natasha Newcomb, a second by Heather Anderson. Is there any discussion? All right, please vote. Consent items are approved, 6-0. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. I'll call the public hearing to order on item E1, public hearing for construction of the new Northeast Montessori School. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this item? Okay, Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
Yes, I recommend that the board review the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Studio Melee for the Northeast Montessori School, hold a public hearing, and approve the plans.
Okay. Oh, I think we'll take a motion in a second, and then we'll go for the presentation. May I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
All right, you may proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Ahart and members of the school board. My name is Renita Lord, and I am honored to be selected to lead our newest building in our district, the Northeast Montessori School. I'm excited to be part of this great opportunity for our students, families, and community on the northeast side of Des Moines, and believe my experience working with our community on the northeast side for the last 9 years will provide the leadership necessary to maintain and provide a supportive relationship. I believe our students deserve this unique opportunity, and our role as educators and community members will be to not only grow ourselves, but our students, staff, and parents with the Montessori philosophy. As we know with Des Moines Public Schools, we have the privilege to work with students from diverse backgrounds with an equity focus on all students. Through the Montessori philosophy, we will celebrate and empower education choice of every student. This will impact our students in that it is child-centered and multisensory, which infuses all learning styles. Students will be able to collaborate, gain leadership skills within a multi-age setting that will foster a sense of community and grow their social emotional learning as well. With this opportunity, we are able to bring together two unique communities to create a vision that will not only benefit our students, but family and community members. It is important to me that we build those relationships early on so that we are focused on student success and growth. As you see in the upcoming plan of the building, we are taking the vision from brick and mortar to student growth and success. This is a collaborative effort between all departments in our district, as well as with our students, our families, and community members in order to bring our vision into reality. I would now like to introduce you to Jamie Malloy from Studio Melee to discuss the design of the building.
Next slide. That's our technology tonight, by the way. First, I just want to thank the Des Moines Public Schools. We're really honored to be given the opportunity to work on such a unique project and to have the chance to help shape the lives of the students in the district and the community. Being a young firm in a local firm, this project's had a tremendous meaning to us, and we're very excited about it. And several of our project team have young kids in the district, and we've had a very personal connection with the project. I'll start with trying to go through this with no pointer, so excuse me if I'm trying to guide you via left, right, up, down. This is the site plan. North is oriented to your right. The site's situated on Douglas and Colfax, and just east of 4 Mile Creek. The main entrance, parent drop-off, and visitor parking is to the south, which would be your left off of Douglas, while the bus drop-off area, staff, and after-hours parking is to the lower right off of Colfax. There's a large circular plaza right in front of the main entry, the main secure entry to the school, which accommodates safe drop-off from both sides and keeps the buses and parent drop-off separate for student safety. The building is stretched out from south to north, primarily to maximize the classroom connection to the natural site features and the programming to the west of the school, which is one of the fundamental principles of the Montessori programming. The west side features playgrounds, native landscaping, perennial gardens, and various outdoor learning environments for the different age groups of children. Next slide. So this is the floor plan. The facility is organized in a clockwise fashion from youngest to oldest, with the primary common building amenities along the east side of the building, or the lower part of the page here. The classrooms were conceived as small homes organized in neighborhoods around a central collaboration space, which we call a forums. To your far left, the 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and kindergarten classrooms make up the primary area, which is on the south. To your upper left is the 1st through 3rd grade, making up the lower elementary. And just to the right of that is the 4th through 6th grade classrooms, making up the upper elementary. And finally, the 7th and 8th grade classrooms are on the far right in the blue to the far north. Each classroom is sized appropriately to allow for the flexible furnishings that are adaptable to the Montessori programming needs. And they feature windows sized for daylighting and placed specifically to enhance the student's connection to nature. There's restrooms provided in the primary classrooms for the youngest kids. Lockers and cubbies are provided within the primary, upper, and lower elementary classrooms. And each neighborhood contains restrooms and other support space. In yellow, you see the library media center. This is a flexible space that allows for a variety of uses for all age groups, ranging from browsing, reading, checking out books, to research and group projects. The gray area, the kitchen cafeteria, is centrally located, and it's right adjacent to the music room with a platform that allows for multi-presentation use. The gym in red, the gym and cafeteria both can be secured from the rest of the school to allow for after-hours activities and neighborhood events, which really connect the school to the neighborhood. The main office area, which is in the kind of pale yellow, is located right off the plaza with clear visual control of the drop-off areas and the main entry of the building. This contains the reception area, workroom, offices, nurse, and staff restrooms. So all visitors to the school enter through a secure vestibule into the office, which is a single point of entry during school hours. The gymnasium and cafeteria will be constructed of precast concrete, and the rest of the building will be constructed of structural insulated panels, which will provide a super insulated and energy efficient enclosure. The building will feature state-of-the-art geothermal heating and cooling, LED lighting with occupancy and daylight controls to optimize student comfort and best utilize district resources. Next slide. This is a view of the entry plaza. The neighborhood concept we tried to carry through in the exterior design of the building, which is intentionally very different from a traditional, more institutional school design. The expression of each individual classroom form with natural earth tone materials is intended to help the school blend in with the scale and feel of the neighborhood. The primary cladding is fiber cement panels in a natural finish with stimulated wood accents at the overhangs and at other key components of the school, such as the main office, which you can see just right of center. The materials are all very low maintenance and sustainable. The gymnasium, for your reference, is on the far right. Next slide. As mentioned before, the gym, which is on the left, and the cafeteria, which is on the right, will be constructed of precast concrete, and the after-hours entry is located between the two. And in the foreground is the bus drop-off area and staff parking, just east of the gym and cafeteria. Next slide. This view is of the west side of the building. This is the courtyard between the lower elementary to the right and the upper elementary to the left. The classrooms are all organized around the west side, as I mentioned before, which features the native landscaping, perennial gardens, and outdoor learning environments for the students. And you can see the daylighting for the gym peeking up above the classrooms, kind of in the background. Next slide. This is a view of the media center, which is, as I mentioned before, is a flexible space for students of all ages, checking out books, research, or group collaboration. This gives you a feel for the interior spaces of the school, which will be light and filled with daylight and have some pops of color throughout. Next slide. This view shows the overall elevations of the building. On the top is the west elevation, showing the different levels of classrooms from north to south. The line below it is the east elevation, showing the gym, the administration, and cafeteria, and it's kind of centrally located with the classrooms on each end. And the other elevations show, as you go around the building, what the different sides of the building look like. Now I'll turn it over to Bill Good to discuss some of the specifics with the school enrollment and schedule.
Yeah, next slide. Why don't you go ahead?
So the highlights of the project, it will be a pre-K-8 building. It will be the second Montessori program, not only for our district, but for the state as well. Student capacity of 450 students. As Jamie said, safety and security components are a high priority with this building. And it will be a model for energy efficiency to optimize our resources.
Next slide. We'd also like to share with you the information about the new attendance area. And this will be a neighborhood school. And I'll show you those boundaries a little bit later. But those students that live within this boundary, this will be their first choice. All students in the attendance area will attend the new school in August of 2020. And as many of you know, the schools that will be most impacted by this new school are Brubaker, Garden, Goodrill, and Hoyt. Any students, and we expect to be, there's students outside the attendance area that will be interested in this program also. We'll go through our normal process of within district open enrollment. Next slide. This is a graphic of, and you notice in the yellow what the new attendance area will be. You'll notice that it is bordered basically north of Euclid and Douglas. And you'll notice the easterly boundary is approximately East 42nd Street. And the north boundary is actually the district boundary at Aurora. Also, it shows you the current Garden and Brubaker boundaries. You notice the green line that goes through the new attendance area. Garden students are currently to the left of that green line, and Brubaker students are currently to the right of that green line. And as you carry the green down, you see Garden's current attendance area, and with the red, you see Brubaker's. Next slide. We do plan on some significant communication as part of this this project. We have many in the community and the neighborhood are very interested in what's happening out here. And for instance, on September 11th, we'll be visiting the Douglas Acres Neighborhood Association to bring them up to date on the specifics of the building. I know that Renita and Dr. Ahart will both be there also. Renita is going to hold individual school meetings to discuss attendance areas and give construction updates. That's going to start in the spring of 2019 and ongoing, I would guess, for some time. to make sure that our families are well aware of the great things that are happening in our Northeast. Next slide. The construction timeline, as you know, we provided preliminary plans on August 14th, and this evening we're providing you the final plans for your review. We haven't set a specific date for groundbreaking yet, but we're looking for you all to be there. And if you at all can be, I'm sure Dr. Harrod will let you know when that date has been determined. We are looking at fall or early winter construction, and we're planning on completion on July 1 of 2020 for the opening of this great school in August of 2020. The project budget is estimated at $17 million from our statewide penny. Next slide. I would tell you that this presentation is on our website, should anyone wish to reference that. And at this point, we would like to entertain comments or questions.
Natasha?
Can we go back to the new map, the proposed boundary lines? And could you kind of go over a little bit on how you determined those boundaries?
Well, it was pretty natural. Basically, the new school was going to impact Garton and Brubaker. Those were the two elementary schools that we needed to reduce in size. They're very large. The actual boundary actually simulates the former Adams boundary 11 or 12 years ago. But it was determined by Euclid and Douglas was a big piece there because of the traffic. We wanted students north of there, and through our studies, we found that there's students in this attendance area that will fill that school. So again, we were restricted on the north side by our district boundary and on Aurora. And at the east, that's a district boundary also. And the west boundary, though there really aren't any streets, that's the natural boundary for that particular school, even though there's not a lot of homes, or there's probably no homes west of 235. But should something happen there, that's still in that boundary. That answer your question? Okay.
Go ahead, Deanna.
Well, the first thing I want to say is I think it's something we have to be sensitive to as a district, and I could probably speak to you, Tom, our superintendent, is imagery and how oftentimes our images send messages, whether we recognize it or not. And one thing I couldn't help but notice in the presentation is all of the images of children were little white children. And particularly when we think about the history of Montessori education, it's typically children of color who have not been able to access Montessori education compared to their white peers. And so I do think if this is a plan that's out in the public, it's all subliminal messages, but it sends a message about who accesses something, who's welcome, who's not. And I think as a district, that's something we need to pay attention to.
I agree 100%. Thank you for calling that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will modify this accordingly, because that is an excellent point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Outside of that, I'm wondering how Hoyt is going to be impacted.
I'm sorry?
How Hoyt's going to be impacted. Like how many middle school students will be able to attend?
Well,
help me with the school name, you all.
6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
Yes, sir.
From not only Hoyt, but Goodrill.
Oh, okay. It's their attendance boundary as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then how many spots, so within this attendance boundary, how many young people do you, like, within the attendance boundary alone, would this school be filled, and how are we going to determine who gets to open and roll in, or are there like a certain number of spots that'll be made available?
Yeah, actually, what we're intending to do is to treat it just like any of our other schools. So anybody who lives within that boundary, they have automatic admittance unless they, for whatever reason, choose to in-district transfer to another school. And then how many we would allow in from outside the boundary is really determined by how many seats remain after the neighborhood is served.
Okay, so there could be opportunities for people to transfer, and there may not be if like
Right.
everyone elected
Exactly.
in.
Yep.
It might just serve that neighborhood.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one. The boundary, the yellow part, is that the boundary on the map? Sorry.
Yes.
Yellow. It didn't look as populated. I can't tell from just, it didn't look as.
Yeah, you can't really tell unless you
Right.
see the dots that represent children.
Oh, right. I mean, the other part seemed more developed. It just didn't look as developed.
Yeah,
But
well,
maybe it is.
the numbers are there, yeah, because those students, we're busing lots of students from that
Okay.
neighborhood now into Brubaker and Garden, yeah.
Yeah, we have the technology available to us to identify where all our students are. And we have looked at where all the current students in that boundary currently reside and currently attend.
Okay. And then you mentioned within district, will you have out of district as well?
That's actually will be exactly like the rest of the district as well. So the neighborhood students have first priority. If there's space after we've enrolled all of those students, then we go to in-district transfer students. And if there's still spaces after we've fulfilled all those requests, then it would be available for out-of-district open enrollment.
Okay. That's it.
Ms. Langford?
So then, in terms of high school feeder pattern, would it just be split between east and north?
It'll be east.
East?
Yeah.
Because since it says serve up to middle school, and I'm assuming most children would probably, so they would all go to east?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Would you mind going back to the lovely slide that had like the floor plan with all the classrooms? It's very tiny, and so I just had a clarifying. There we go. Okay.
Stare into that.
Okay, there are 3. Because I was just thinking when I was looking at the middle school that there were 2, but I think there's 3. Is there 3? Am I right? There's 3, 7, and 8th
Yep.
classrooms. So that's probably, 75 to 90 kids, Dr. Ahart, from the middle school?
What did you say, 75 to 90?
Yeah, because there's 3 classrooms.
Yeah, it'd be closer to 75.
Yeah, because yeah, that would be the hope. Okay, so that's not really going to impact the middle school. There'll be some 6th graders mixed into the other, but it's not going to significantly impact the middle
Yeah,
school enrollment.
there will be some impact on both
Okay.
Hoyt and Goodroll, but
The impact's really going to be for the elementaries to reduce those
right,
sizes.
and it'll
Okay.
be we'll be able to see that impact in advance for the most part because of which schools the
Yeah.
Elementary
Yeah.
students would have attended. Yeah.
I'm just thinking ahead just because we're constantly talking about classroom sizes and classroom sizes growing, and we're not reaching a point probably where we're going to be out of that for a few years. So I was just kind of thinking through the impact.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we do have a motion and a second on the floor.
So sorry.
Okay.
I just realized we're actually approving this plan this evening, correct?
Correct.
To move forward, so I do have one final question.
Okay.
And that, Mr. Good, some of the outreach that's happening in the community. Could you just one more time, what's the plan if after the board approves this tonight in terms of engaging the community in this plan?
Yes, we're not only going to be speaking with the community as a whole, and very specifically with those that do not have kids in this area. We want the entire community to be aware of what's going on here. But Renita will be visiting with families at Garden and Brubaker and Hoyt and Goodroll to make sure that they understand where this is going and the attendance issues and some of the things that we shared with you. She's actually going to use this same presentation for those discussions with the community. So there will be, we have some that are asking, some that are not asking, that we're going to share anyway. But we have talked significantly about how communication of this is very important. And we do have the time to do that prior to 2020 in August. So we're going to take full advantage of that, and through our outreach, I keep looking at Renita because I think she's the one that's going to be tasked with much of that, and a great person to do that, being at Garton currently and knowing a lot of these families anyway, so it's going to be very helpful.
So we started some communication last year in the spring. Myself and Mark from Brubaker went with Susie Tallman and Greg Groves to meet with some families with Garton and Brubaker already. So the communication has kind of already began with introducing the new attendance boundary, having one parent meeting, just to ask questions, clarify some things, and that's what we'll start to continue on with this year and add in Hoyt and Goodrill as well, because it'll impact those sixth graders that are currently at Hoyt and Goodrill when the building opens in 2020. So lots of communications. We don't have the plan completely solidified yet, but it's something that we're working on so we can begin those talks with the families. You know, not only for the building of the attendance area, but also informing them, asking, you know, allowing them to ask questions, dig deeper into the Montessori philosophy, because this will be new for a lot of our families. A wonderful opportunity for the students that it's impacting within that neighborhood, but we really need to begin to also help educate the families and community members that this will impact. So we will have a communication timeline and be out in the neighborhoods with that.
And can I ask just the tone with the communication that you have had? Because I didn't realize you're the principal currently at Garton. I just got to visit your school and meet with your community school coordinator. It seems like there's some really awesome things going on. But so what's some of the tone of the feedback that you're hearing from families?
You know, we had very few at the first meeting. However, I did talk to the incoming kindergartners this year. So I introduced it to them, you know, just explained, you know, currently your students are going to Garton in a couple of years. Lots of positive feedback from the families that have already received that notification. They were excited about it. We did have a couple of families ask me about if they don't live in the boundary, what would happen if they wanted to attend. So I just explained that process that we just currently talked to all of you about as well. So far we've had good communication. You know, obviously they're curious, it's unfamiliar to some families, and so, but it's just, like I said, educating and talking to them about the philosophy and the attendance area, and just reassuring them, you know, we are looking out for the best of their students and want their success.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Lloyd.
I did have one more question too. What about the training for the teachers? Is that, I know that's not part of this money, but what is the plan for that, I guess?
I really should have my notes with me to answer that in detail, which I don't have with me right now, but that's, you've approved the budget for the initial training, and we're continuing to pursue that, but I can get more information back to you all on that.
Okay, I just didn't know if it would be in-house or.
No.
No, okay.
Not initially, we don't have the capacity.
Just one more thing I would add that that popped in was currently Garton and Brubaker are not walkable schools, whereas in this attendance area, this will be a walkable school.
Motion to approve the plans for construction of the new Northeast Montessori School. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
The next item on the agenda is another public hearing. Item E2, public hearing for a multipurpose room renovation project at Smouse Opportunity School. I need to call. I'll call the public hearing to order on item E2 for a multipurpose room renovation project at Smouse Opportunity School. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the item? Having no one, I'll close the public hearing, and Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
Yes, I recommend the board review the request to name Central Academy's renovated art studio Edma M. Dahl Studio.
We're on public hearing too. E2. Multipurpose room at Smouse.
I apologize. I recommend the board review the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Studio Melee for a multi-purpose room renovation project at Smouse Opportunity School, hold a public hearing, and approve the plans.
May I have a motion? The multipurpose room renovation project at Smouse Opportunity School. Are there any questions or discussion? No presentation. Having no discussion, please vote on the motion to approve the multipurpose room renovation project at Smouse Opportunity School. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is F1, open enrollment late applications for denial. Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
Yes, on your agenda, F1 are the open enrollment late applications for denial. These are applications for open enrollment that were not received timely. Each of these late applications is reviewed by our enrollment team and evaluated for whether or not they meet the special cause exception. Those that are on the agenda tonight are those that are being denied due to insufficient cause.
May I have a motion and a second to deny the open enrollment appeals identified by case number in the agenda based on Iowa Code and district policy?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is item F2, naming request at Central Academy. Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, those of you who are familiar with the physical structure of Central Academy and have been in and out of the front door probably haven't thought much about what lies directly beneath the front of the building, which you might refer to as a garden level space. This is space that was not ever finished. It has been used by the district for storage of odds and ends. It's not heated or cooled. It's pretty cool space if you have a good imagination. And our amazing art teacher at Central Academy and her students, who you'll hear from in a moment, conceived of what I thought was a pretty brilliant idea. And I can't remember what, Dara, was it 4 years ago? 4 years ago. And I came over and toured the space with her, and she and her students had actually chalked out a map, a diagram of how they would like to use that space. Because of the success of Dara's program, she's extremely squeezed for space, and we have some other, with our growing performing arts opportunities and gifted and talented, and a number of other growing opportunities, leadership, for example. We're actually cramped for space over there, and cramped really for the appropriate space for use in the arts. So we sat down and talked, and I know I was frustrating to Dara, but we didn't have this in our 5-year plan, and we don't have a tremendous amount of flexibility, especially since we don't have the sunset lifted off the statewide penny. Jessica Gogarty got involved. We had several meetings, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 meetings over the last several years, looking at ways that we could possibly squeeze this project in, because it will mean improved opportunities for students, and we'll be able to serve more students in an area that is fast growing in demand. So they offered to see if they could get some money donated, and went to work and with impressive results, I guess I'll say. I'm so excited about this. As you can tell, I tried to skip ahead to this item a few items ago, but I'd like to invite Dara and Jessica up to tell us a little bit more about it and the exciting opportunity.
Thank you, and good evening. It's good to see you. Dara is an amazing teacher. She's got a national reputation. She's a national board certified teacher, and she also has a national following through her YouTube channel on the work that she does. So it's just busting at the seams. Kids love to take this class. They get so much benefit from it, and we are kind of, we've used every creative way we can think of to really expand those opportunities for kids. The W.T. and Edna M. Dahl Foundation has offered a generous gift of $400,000 to renovate some of that additional garden space on Level A, with the honor of naming the studio after Mrs. Dahl, the Edna M. Dahl Studio. This is just such a wonderful confluence of purpose because Edna M. Dahl was an artist, and she's an avid supporter of the arts in Des Moines and throughout central Iowa. And our project, we think of it we call it the Art and Soul Project, and maybe Dara wants to tell you a little bit about that part of it, but that really speaks to Mrs. Dahl's interest in the arts as well. Our students practice charitable giving and service as part of our arts program in Dara's classes, and Mrs. Dahl dedicated her life to service and philanthropy as well. So there's just, like I said, such a confluence of purpose. And we'd be absolutely thrilled if you would agree to name our new art studio the Edna M. Dahl Studio so that we could accept their offer. In your packet is an outline a little bit about the 5 bullets that are required for naming in Des Moines schools and some of our interests. Dara, would you have anything you would like to contribute to this?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm happy to answer any questions. Dr. Ahart, thank you so much for introducing us. And he's right. 4 years ago, I took him on a tour, and the story is exactly how he said. And with the addition of, if my students and I could go out and find the money, that we could see if this project would work. And my students and I have worked extremely hard. I know that some of you have been to our events to get the word out about this project. And now we're standing here with a gift of $400,000 to make this dream come true.
This naming request will go to a subcommittee, which Terry's already designated as Rob, Natasha, and myself. But in the meantime, are there any questions or comments that the board has? Deanna?
I'm just curious, how did the students envision the space?
Well, first of all, we started the Throwing Program in 2009 with just a handful of students, and every year it has grown obnoxiously and surprisingly and awesomely. And that's where we store our clay. So we order about 10 tons of clay a year, and we have to go down to this level and bring it up to our current studio. And it's when we walked into the space, if you guys can imagine, like exposed brick walls, natural lighting, windows. I mean, it just, I don't know, for us, it just screamed studio. And we walked down there, and it was the answer that we'd been looking for. I, as a teacher, born a teacher, being a teacher is in my soul, hated turning away students. Every year we've had waiting lists, students that I can't serve just due to lack of space.
Can I ask how many students you're currently serving and how many are typically on your waiting list?
Say that one more time.
Can I just ask how many students you're currently serving and how many are typically on your waiting list?
Yeah. Every year I say we're at our max, and then every year we find another closet for storage or another way. So we right now are serving 100 potters. And for the past probably 5 years, we've had 60 or more students on the waiting list.
Wow.
And we are only at this point able to serve sophomores through seniors because we just don't have the room to serve any freshmen at this time.
So would the space allow you to increase the number of students you would serve as well?
Yes, not only will the space help us increase, but I get asked all the time as a professional potter from adults like yourself, oh, can I take your class? And so our hope is to eventually have community classes through Des Moines Community Ed. Yes, and this would, my students are always begging to stay in the studio, be in the studio. They wanted to come in on Labor Day. Like, they always want to be in the studio, and I have a vision of being able to host adult classes, which would also allow my high school students to be in the space at the same time, creating this really cool multi-generational learning environment, and sharing Edna's gift with our whole community, not just our high schoolers.
That's awesome. From all across the district.
Yes. So yeah, that's the great thing about it being housed at Central Academy, is that my program, or our program, the throwing program, is open to any high school student in the Des Moines area. So it's a great location, and as a teacher, it's amazing to be able to serve students from across the district.
Yeah, it's a real community of learners.
Thank you very much. The subcommittee will find a time to meet and get a recommendation to the board.
I'll
as soon as
also
we can.
say, we are always excited to have visitors come in, and we'd invite all of you to come tour and meet our students, so you can see the inspirational space for yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Jess.
The next item on our agenda will be consent item 2, adoption and purchase of textbooks for non-public schools. This item was pulled by Kirsten, so I will open up, well, actually, first I'll take a motion in a second to approve the item. Okay.
Second.
All right, and now I'll open it up for discussion.
I don't have a lot to say about this item other than this is something that the state requires us to do, and this is a way of me living my values through my vote.
Superintendent Ahart, I guess I would ask if you would introduce the matter, just so everyone understands the context of the item.
Yeah, so per Iowa code, non-public schools can adopt, it's kind of confusing. They can adopt textbooks that their resident public schools adopt, and they can also adopt other textbooks as long as they meet code requirements, specifically that they are appropriately religion-free. It seems funny to have on the Des Moines Public Schools board agenda the purchase of textbooks for in this case, a Catholic school, but that is required by code. The General Assembly allocates dollars specifically for this purpose, and since they don't allocate those dollars directly to a private school, they get allocated to us much in the same way. Title I, federal Title I dollars flow through the district and then end up proportionately at our private schools. The state operates in the same way in terms of textbook funding.
Are there any questions, comments, discussion?
I also agree with Kirsten and will be abstaining tonight.
Okay. And sorry, just for clarification as well, any funding, funding not, this is already allocated by the General Assembly, as Dr. Ahart mentioned, to non-public schools. Any unutilized funding goes into a reserve fund, only to be used by that school. And my understanding as well of the matter is that if it is defeated, staff will need to bring it forward at a later date again.
I was just gonna say, I would like to point out that this is a symbol and not a disagreement or a plea for us to not follow Iowa code. This
Right,
is a symbol. That's
and
all I
would-
want to say to my school board colleagues. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to make sure that we understand what the vote means and the parameters and
ramifications
of not passing the vote.
Board colleagues, I just need a little bit of clarification about what a symbol of, when you say your vote through your values, could you explain that a little bit, just so I understand?
This is a continuation of a conversation that I've been having in the community and with many others of just the place for public oversight for public dollars and where they're going into private places. And so this is just, I think that if the state wants to give private schools dollars, that they should be voting on that at the state level and not putting us in this position. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 4-1 with 1 abstaining. Thank you, guys. Next, we have information items, audit committee update, as well as preliminary plans for Howe Elementary School improvement project. And if you have questions on those, you can direct them to the individual listed on that item. And then that moves to items of privilege, chair's report. I just wanted to mention that Terry Caldwell-Johnson is traveling. She's in Washington, D.C. and at an event this evening, so was also not able to call in, which is why I am seated in this chair. And I do not have any other information to report. So Superintendent Ahart.
Yes, since this is our first meeting for the 18-19 school year, I just want to offer my sincere appreciation and thank you to all of our instructional staff, our operational staff, food service, and administration for a successful start to the new year, especially when given that we made a very major change this year in flipping the start times. And having had an opportunity to get into a large number of our schools already this year, things are going remarkably well. We continue to receive questions and feedback for things that are little hiccups for personal schedules related to the start times. We're continuing to keep data on that and respond to those concerns as we can. But overwhelmingly, the feedback that I've received via phone and email has been very positive, especially with our from our elementary staff. So I want to congratulate everyone for their collective efforts in planning and preparation and execution. It's really gone off extremely smoothly, and I'm really excited about what this entire year is going to bring for student growth. So thank you, DMPS team.
And I'm sorry, I didn't ask any other board members if they had comments.
I think the rest of the board is aware, but Rob Barron serves on the audit committee, and I just want to thank him for that because that means that I don't have to serve on the audit committee. Because as I was reading through the minutes, I was like, wow, this is some pretty deep stuff. Thanks, Rob, for taking that on for us.
Loves it.
He does. That's the other part of it. So I'm so glad that both you get the opportunity to do it and that you also enjoy the work.
Well, it was thank you for that. Honestly, I volunteered for it because it's not an area that I was super familiar with, and I felt like it was appropriate to stretch yourself and when given opportunities like this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Langford.
I just keep doing it, but because I'm extra, just want to say, because it's important for us, to celebrate each other, that our colleague, Rob, just celebrated a birthday also, and just want to say happy birthday to you, Rob. It sure is. Happy birthday. Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday, Deanna. And I know. Well, I'm also not 40 yet, but, sometimes we get early on stuff. No, you won't. Well, after next year, then. Yeah.
Okay, I think that tells me it's time to adjourn the regular meeting of the board for September 4th, 2018.